Little War in London is an espionage novel written by me, James Ward, in 2017, and the 10th novel in the now finished Tales of MI7 series. Its theme is fake news and the possibility or not of encountering truth when enough powerful individuals in the media and the government conspire to replace it with alternative facts. The novel's time frame is quite specific. The radio, we're told in Chapter 1, spoke of Donald Trump, Theresa May, and the NHS, then travel bans, repression in Turkey, Russian military maneuvers in the Pacific, Alexei Navalny, car bombs in Iraq, North Korean long-range missiles. It ends with John Mordred in a formal meeting with a thinly disguised Amber Rudd, the Home Secretary at the time. Which might seem like needless trivia, but it's important that this novel takes place when it does. Fake news becomes more problematic the closer a society moves to war. Disinformation, as it used to be called, then becomes a normal part of the landscape. Following Brexit in 2016 and the US presidential election later that year, both Britain and America were more bitterly divided than they'd been for a long time. Russian interference was a major cause, as was subsequently established in the US, and still seems highly probable for the UK. Little War in London takes all of that into account. Producing effective fake news is difficult. One might almost say it's an art form, because it's always necessary to create a second level of fabrication for those who want to dig deeper, and perhaps even third, fourth, and fifth levels for those who want to keep digging. In theory, the creative process could go on forever. For those reasons, this is a complex novel. It could have been Kafkaesque, but that would have been a mistake, because in practice, each sub-level of untruth must be bigger than its predecessor. To rigorously verify one fact, one usually has to check several others, and there must come a point at which fake world-building just becomes too difficult. For those investigators who are still digging, the truth will then out. The question is whether, given the depth of excavation required to double-check, anyone will believe them. The little war of the novel's title involves a few maverick intelligence agents from Russia and the United States fighting a discreet battle to the death on some of London's back streets. Whether that's really happening is something John Mordred, the novel's protagonist, doubts, but he's soon being assailed by other canards, including a reheated version of one of the oldest of them all, a real-life accusation, now completely discredited, of ritual satanic abuse by, amongst others, a 1970s British Prime Minister. There is a truth in this novel, and there is a conspiracy, and the Russians are involved, but the detective work is highly demanding, to the point where Ruby Parker, John Mordred's boss, and far more central to these novels than this series of videos may have suggested, describes it as one of the most complex investigations MI7's ever undertaken. Along the way, Mordred starts working with a CIA agent called Daisy Hallenbeck, who appears in several more novels in the series. The trail leads to France and Monaco, and as usual, Private Eye magazine lends valuable assistance. The novel ends with an oblique tribute to the James Bond film Goldfinger. Despite all I've just said, in some ways, Little War in London could be described as no more than an ordinary espionage yarn. After all, spies deal in fake news all the time. It's part of their stock in trade. If anything sets this novel apart, it's the sheer quantity of fake news. Quality-wise, whether that helps or hinders, that's for the reader to decide.